Some folks seem pretty upset over this Connecticut Sun sale situation. I can't say I am one of those folks that is pissed off about it, but here is some of the reaction that you've seen. Senator Richard Blumenthal, WNBA put a full court press on blocking the Sun from staying in Connecticut. Deeply harmful to fans that live and breathe basketball. DOJ should investigate and stop such anti-competitive interference. Look, let's unpack this for a second, right? So the Connecticut Sun, we're going to be sold to one of the owners of the Celtics, right? Like that was...
DeWanna Bonner didn't just read the news. She felt the sting of betrayal. The Connecticut Sun, a team she had poured her heart and soul into, was being sold off like a used car, and the league had slammed the door on the one move that might have saved them. It wasn't merely a change in ownership. It was a blatant rejection of the momentum building around stars like Caitlin Clark. The veteran leader watched as the WNBA front office effectively torpedoed a massive deal that could have kept the team in the region. This wasn't a strategic business decision. It was a middle finger to the fans and the players who had built this house from the ground up.
Let's unpack this for a second, right? So the Connecticut Sun, we're going to be sold to one of the owners of the Celtics, right? Like that was agreed to. And that I get. Like Boston, WNBA team, Boston sports fans, region remains the same, even if it's a different location. Like, I understand, I guess, being pissed that didn't go down. As far as the Connecticut Sun themselves, I don't think that team had much juice relative to the rest of the league. Let's just be real about it. It was not a destination.
Imagine a record-breaking $325 million offer sitting on the table, poised to completely transform the franchise. One of the owners of the Boston Celtics was ready to step in and elevate the Sun into a powerhouse within a major sports market. For DeWanna Bonner and her teammates, this represented a giant leap into the big leagues of visibility and resources. But instead of celebration, the league office delivered a cold, hard no. They claimed the move was an attempt to skip the line, completely ignoring the fact that the regional fan base was already there, hungry for a modern experience that matches the talent on the floor.
It was not a destination. It was not one of those teams. You know, if you're another team, you get excited about playing. You're circling on the calendar. And the facilities were not up to par. They're sharing courts for kids' birthday parties and stuff like that. And in this new CBA, that's part of it, is making sure all the facilities are up to par. So just keeping it status quo, I get why that wasn't the case. Just even moving, somewhere in Connecticut, Hartford was another suggestion. But with the ownership change could have been the upgrades. So that's one argument.
The reality behind the scenes in Connecticut has been nothing short of embarrassing for a professional organization in 2024. While the rest of the league is leveling up, the Sun are still sharing practice courts with kids' birthday parties. It's nearly impossible to sell a world-class future to the next generation of stars when you have to wait for a toddler to finish their cake before running drills. This lack of basic professional standards is exactly why the veteran core is so furious. They see the Caitlin Clark effect drawing millions of eyes to the game, yet they remain stuck in a facility that feels more like a local YMCA than a professional arena.
Putting in that bid. But you can see the other side of it as well. If you're, I think, fairly looking at it, the WNBA's case would be that they tried to skip the line, more or less. That's essentially what they said. Sun ownership, however, initially reached a deal last summer to sell the team for a record $325 million, which, by the way, needs to be appreciated. I think that the price here is $300 million to go to Houston, to relaunch the Comets, which I haven't even mentioned up until this point. And there's some history there, of course. But just the fact that the Connecticut Sun are selling for upwards of...
Instead of backing the Boston dream, the league is pivoting toward a $300 million relaunch of the Houston Comets. The move feels more like a reward to the old boys club of NBA ownership than a decision guided by the actual growth of the game. The Fertitta family is getting the green light. And while Houston carries a legendary history, this choice feels like a slap in the face to Connecticut loyalists. For players like Bonner, watching their team's future auctioned off to a city that hasn't had a franchise in years, while their current market is left to languish, is a bitter pill to swallow. It defies all logic in this new era.
Which I haven't even mentioned up until this point. And there's some history there, of course. But just the fact that the Connecticut Sun are selling for upwards of $300 million is one of the surest signs of growth of the league that there's been, right? Like, I think they might have been bought for $10 million or something along those lines. That's an explosive growth. And it's one of the arguments I made going into the CBA as to how you can say, where the trajectory of the WNBA is headed beyond just simple revenue, net revenue, game in, game out.
Even political heavyweights are stepping into the fray because the situation has grown that toxic. Senator Richard Blumenthal didn't hold back, calling for a full-court press to prevent the Sun from being ripped away from Connecticut fans. He even suggested that the Department of Justice should investigate the WNBA for potential anti-competitive interference. When United States senators are threatening legal action over a basketball team's relocation, the bridge isn't just burnt, it's been nuked. This isn't merely about sports anymore. It's about a league office that seems determined to control every aspect of the game.
Teams that have put bids in, that have gotten rewarded for doing so. WNBA effectively blocked the deal from progressing, holding firm that relocation decisions are made by the WNBA Board of Governors and not by individual teams, and that cities have already gone through the expansion process, which included Houston. Those cities have priority over Boston. And we know we're getting Cleveland. We know we're getting Philadelphia. Obviously, the Tempo, Toronto, and Portland are entering this year. And now you're going back to Houston. Now the cynic could say it's the Fertitta family, right? And the NBA rewarding one of its own because
the WNBA's official stance is that everyone must follow the rules of the expansion process. They argued that Boston hadn't gone through the proper channels, while cities like Houston, Toronto, and Portland had already done the legwork. But for the players, this comes across as a convenient excuse to block a super team environment from forming in a major market like Boston. Essentially, they're telling the Sun that their value doesn't matter if it doesn't fit the league's rigid, slow-moving roadmap. It's a rejection of the present in favor of a maybe later that might never actually benefit the roster.
Priority over Boston. And we know we're getting Cleveland. We know we're getting Philadelphia. Obviously, the Tempo, Toronto, and Portland are entering this year. And now you're going back to Houston. Now the cynic could say it's the Fertitta family, right? And the NBA rewarding one of its own because of the Houston Rockets connection. The Sun will play one more season in Connecticut before relocating in 2027. So I sit on the side of I understand why the Sun are being moved. I understand why this is happening.
To understand why this is happening and to grasp the fury, you have to look at the numbers, which are absolutely staggering. The Connecticut Sun were purchased for what now seems like pocket change, maybe $10 million back in the day. Today, they are being valued at over $30 million. This explosive growth is the direct result of sweat equity from veterans who played through the lean years. Now, with the Caitlin Clark era in full swing and money pouring in, the league is gatekeeping who gets to profit from it. The players see the valuation skyrocket, yet they're being told they can't have the ownership stake they want.
Connecticut before relocating in 2027. So I sit on the side of I understand why the Sun are being moved. I understand why this is happening. I like the idea personally of a team in Boston more than a team in Houston. But the moral of the story is the demand. And you had teams that have put in for these bids, like Houston, and they're getting rewarded, and other teams wanting to get in on the WNBA business. And ultimately, I think that's
DeWanna Bonner didn't just see the news. She felt the betrayal. The Connecticut Sun, a team she poured her soul into, was being sold like a used car, and the league slammed the door on the one deal that could have saved them. A record-breaking $325 million offer from a Boston owner sat ready to transform the franchise, but instead of celebration, the league issued a cold, hard no. Their reasoning? Boston hadn't followed the rules, while Houston, Toronto, and Portland had done the legwork. To the players, it was a convenient excuse to block a super team environment and signal that their value doesn't matter if it doesn't fit the league's rigid, slow-moving roadmap. While the rest of the league is leveling up, the Suns still share practice courts with kids' birthday parties. How do you sell a world-class future to rising stars when toddlers block your drills? The veteran core is livid. They see the Caitlin Clark effect bringing millions of eyes to the game, yet they're stuck in a YMCA-like facility, undervalued and underappreciated. The league's rejection of the Boston deal is a slap in the face to loyal fans and players who built the Sun into a perennial contender. The looming relocation to Houston in 2027 casts a shadow over every home game, creating a lame duck environment and eroding the team's culture. Even political heavyweights are weighing in. Senator Richard Blumenthal called for a full-court press to block the sale and suggested a DOJ investigation into potential anti-competitive interference. The league isn't just managing expansion, they're picking winners and losers, favoring NBA-connected owners over proven markets. The Suns' record valuation of $325 million, fueled by player effort and local support, is being used as justification to uproot the team. Meanwhile, the league enforces slow, bureaucratic expansion rules, prioritizing process over the immediate health of teams ready to win today. The message is clear. Player autonomy is secondary and loyalty is expendable. This isn't just about a single franchise. It's a reflection of the league's growing pains. The Sun have proven they can compete and thrive, but the Board of Governors' obsession with control and expansion priorities threatens to undermine that progress. Players like DeWanna Bonner carry the burden of competing while also advocating for their own survival. The league risks losing momentum by rejecting Boston's opportunity, forcing stars to play in uncertainty and alienating devoted fans. The Connecticut Sun sale is more than a transaction. It's a test of whether the WNBA can balance corporate control with explosive, player-driven growth. The future is bright, but only if the league finally respects the foundations that made it successful.